The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just a ghost of you and me. It's just a smoke and gasoline. It's just a ghost of you and me. Of you and me.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Staring Into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How's everybody doing tonight? And I hope everybody has a good new year.
Tonight's show is going to be an interesting and fun one. We're going to be talking about aliens again, but we're going to be talking about this really strange article that old boy sent me. And I read this article and it kind of tripped me out a little bit, and I wanted to share it with everybody and see what y'all thought and just kind of discuss it a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get that going. The article comes from IGN.com, and the headline is Alien Civilizations Destroyed Themselves Through Progress, Study Claims. It was written on December 23rd of 2020, and it was written by a gentleman named Wesley LeBlanc. In space, no one can hear your civilization destroy itself. A new study suggests that alien civilizations destroyed themselves through progress, meaning our galaxy could be full of dead alien civilizations. NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory and California Institute of Technology researchers believe that the galaxy might be home to alien civilizations that destroyed themselves through technological advances that eventually led to complete destruction and biological degeneration, as reported by the New York Post. This theory posits that any intelligent life that lived in the Milky Way before us has likely already killed itself off. If intelligent life is likely to destroy themselves, it is not surprising that there is little or no intelligent life elsewhere, the researchers state in a paper detailing their theory. If you're wondering why we might still be alive, it's because humans are billions of years behind these now dead civilizations. The aliens in question probably saw life form around 8 billion years after the formation of the Milky Way, whereas we didn't arrive until 13.5 billion years after its formation, meaning we are about 5.5 billion years behind. Since Carl Sagan's time, there's been lots of research. NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory astrophysicist Jonathan H. Zhang said, as reported by Live Science, especially since the Hubble Space Telescope and Kepler Space Telescope, we have lots of knowledge about the densities in the Milky Way galaxy, and star formation rates, and exoplanet formation, and the occurrence rate of supernova explosions. We actually know some of the numbers. The numbers Zhang is referring to is the mystery variable Sagan referred to in his Cosmos miniseries, where he discussed the Drake equation. This equation comes from Frank Drake in 1961, and is an equation used to estimate the number of active alien civilizations in the Milky Way. Due to the limitations of their time, Drake and Sagan had to include variables that couldn't be identified more precisely. Zhang and the team of researchers they work with have learned some of those numbers that Sagan and Drake couldn't identify. No single factor is more important than the idea that intelligent creatures generally have a tendency that leans towards self-annihilation, according to Live Science. The theory also includes factors like the prevalence of sun-like stars harboring Earth-like plants, the number of deadly supernovas near the alien civilizations, the probability of intelligent life evolving, and the tendency of advanced civilizations to destroy themselves through progress. All of these factors and more come together to lead Zhang and the other researchers to believe that advanced alien civilizations did exist at one point, but likely led themselves to destruction by way of progress. We might not be the sole civilization that exists as living in the galaxy, though. As some scientists theorize, there might be 36 extraterrestrial races among the stars, as reported by Sci-Fi Wire. This isn't the first time researchers have theorized that our galaxy might be home to the remains of now dead alien civilizations. Back in 2018, researchers arrived to this same theory. But it wasn't progress that led to their civilization-wide annihilation. It was climate change, according to this report from Forbes. Regardless of the reasoning, Earth and the human race sound about 5.5 billion years late to the party of progress-related annihilation. But if it turns out climate change is the reason, we might be closer to our end than 5.5 billion years. While we wait to find out what our fate is, read about possible signs of life detected on Venus, and then read about how, according to former Israeli government official, the United States and Israel are in contact with a galactic federation of aliens. And that is the end of the article. Now, the possible signs of life detected on Venus. I did that article for Paranormal News on the YouTube channel. And I go through and I explain all of that and really get in depth in it. That was a really good episode. The United States and Israel being in contact with a galactic federation of aliens, that came from a Israeli government official. That was a phenomenal article as well. I did that one for Paranormal News as well on the YouTube channel. So if you want to see either one of those two articles and see my commentary on them, they are both right now on the YouTube channel. You can go and check them out. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. So those are both there. And this is a strange article because basically what they're saying in the first half of the article is that they believe that at one time there were alien civilizations, but they're all dead because they killed themselves off. Because as a civilization becomes more advanced, they tend to destroy themselves. But then at the end of the article, they're saying that there are scientists that say that there's 36 alien races out there. Now, that's a rather specific number. They didn't say some scientists believe that there are other races of aliens out there. Or some scientists believe that there are several races of aliens out there. They say, and I'll quote, "We might not be the sole civilization that exists as living in the galaxy, though. As some scientists theorize, there might be 36 extraterrestrial races among the stars." 36. Now my question would be, how did they get that number? If they're theorizing that there are these races of aliens out there, what made them choose 36 different races of aliens? That is a very specific number. I don't believe that's a coincidence. Now, think about this for a second. If you were going to make this statement, say you're a scientist and you believe that alien life exists. You believe that it's impossible in this gigantic universe of ours for there to be no other creatures that are alive in the entire universe. That only on Earth were the conditions right for life to begin. Now, if you're a scientist and you believe that, what would make you choose the number 36? First of all, if you're a scientist, you're not going to give an exact number unless you have proof of that exact number. You're going to say multiple. You're going to say several. You're going to say more than one, more than a few. You're going to be general with it because you have no evidence to prove 36. Why would you give an exact number like that? That's your first little nugget question to think about. They listed a specific number. Why did they do that? And does that make sense in your brain? That scientists who deal with data, deal with measurements, deal with facts to prove their theories. Because remember the scientific method. You form a hypothesis, then you experiment to prove that hypothesis. You follow the evidence. Either it proves it or disproves it. If it disproves it, you form a new hypothesis and you try to prove that one. So you're not just going to throw a number out there like that. The other thing I noticed in this article is multiple times they talked about climate change. Now, not just the old BS thing about climate change here on Earth. That, oh my God, climate change is going to destroy the planet. No, it's not. Shut up. It's not. You're full of crap. Let's say by some crazy stretch of the imagination, we go into another ice age. Okay, we're in an ice age. So what? Mankind will survive. We've been through the ice age before. You won't be able to live in all the places you live now. But we'll be all right. We'll make it. Let's say it gets hot. Okay, so what? Well, James, you don't understand. If it gets hot, the ice is going to melt. The sea level is going to rise. So what? So you can't live on the beach anymore. Mankind will survive. The only thing that's going to completely kill us off is either an asteroid impact, such as what they theorize happened to the dinosaurs, or a supervolcano going off. But even that probably wouldn't kill us off completely. It would really screw up a country, but I don't think it would kill the whole world off. It would have to be something along those lines, though. Something that's bad enough that could be an extinction level event. Now, the reason the asteroid would be is because when the asteroid hits the Earth, it sends a bunch of dust and soil and stuff up into the atmosphere from the impact. And that blocks out the sun and the plant life dies. Now, once the plant life dies, everything dies. Because if there are no plants, there's nothing for the herbivores to eat. So they die. If there are no herbivores, there's nothing for the carnivores to eat. And they die. Us, as human beings, we can eat anything we want. We don't have to eat just plants. We don't have to eat just meat. We can eat both. But guess what? We're going to be screwed. Because if there's no plants and there's no animals, what the hell are we going to eat? That's the problem. So, something like the asteroid that took out the dinosaurs could take us out. If it gets hotter or colder, it's not going to kill us off. We'll survive it. So this whole thing about climate change is silly. It's mainly about control, to be honest with you. But that's one thing, another thing that I noticed in this article. But I want to get to the main premise here of alien civilizations destroying themselves because they became too advanced. Now, I guess the premise here would be that when a society advances, becomes technologically advanced, their weaponry becomes technologically advanced as well. So with better weapons, you get a higher death count. Eventually, you reach a point to where your weaponry can destroy your planet. And I guess that's part of the theory here, is that they developed to a point where they killed themselves off. Or that their technology developed to a point to where they made their planet unlivable. This is coming from the hippie green side of the equation, where they talk about nuclear energy being bad. They talk about oil being bad. They talk about all this kind of stuff, about pollution, all this. That somehow, because of the technology, they polluted their planet to the point to where they could no longer survive there. Either because they made the air toxic, the water toxic, or because, as they talked about climate change in here, their technology screwed up their atmosphere to where it made it too hot, too cold, not be able to breathe, whatever. That they screwed up their planet and ended up killing them off. So the question is, do we believe that sort of thing is the norm? Because they're not saying a few here. They're not saying, well, we believe that one or two races of aliens out there, civilizations, got to the point to where they killed themselves off. They're pretty much saying all. Now, if you look at mankind, I totally believe we would kill ourselves off. I believe we've done it many times in our past. I don't think that what we're living in right now is the first time that mankind has reached this point. I think mankind has reached this point over and over and over again throughout the years. Basically, the way it goes is I think we start off with nothing. And we start to learn. We develop our technology. We get to a point to where we become able to sustain large populations through farming, through technological advances that make work a lot easier, like the Industrial Revolution, those kind of things. We reach a point to where life starts to become good for everybody. Then science gets going, and they develop all kinds of crazy stuff. Eventually, they develop something that doesn't kill everybody off, but it makes it so that the technology that we are reliant upon is no longer useful. In our case, with this current form of our civilization, that would be accomplished through like some sort of massive EMP, electromagnetic pulse, something that fries all of the electronics that we use. And then all of a sudden, nothing works anymore. That's bad. Now, we could recover because we have the manpower. But let's say you have some sort of plague hit the world, some sort of sickness, and it wipes out a good amount of our people. I'm not talking 1 or 2%. I'm not even talking 10%. I'm talking something that takes like 75, 80% of the population. Imagine the Black Plague times a million. You know, I mean, I'm talking a major, major pandemic thing. Let's say something like that happens. What are the odds that out of the very small percentage of people left, that for whatever reason they don't die? They have natural immunities, natural antibodies, whatever, they don't die. The majority of people die, they don't. You're going to have some that live. That's the way it always works. What are the odds that in that small group of people, you're going to have the people that know how to do everything? I would say not very good. Now, you might consider yourself a fairly intelligent person, but I guarantee you that a lot of the things that make our society run, not only can you not do them, but you don't even know how they work. You know, on a basic level, you grab your cell phone, you point it at somebody, you push the button, and it takes a picture. You get it. That's how it works. Okay, but why does it do that? How is the picture captured? What causes that camera to put what you're looking at onto the screen so you can look at it later? How does that work? Can you build one? You see what I'm saying? And we've talked about this on the show before. But I think that this has happened over and over and over again through our history. I believe that the biblical story of the Tower of Babel, I think the Tower of Babel is talking about a time when civilization reached a point to where their technology allowed them to build giant either skyscrapers or something along those lines, something that was reaching towards the heavens. They might have been talking about some sort of elevator to space or something that they were trying to construct. Because that's something scientists have been talking about now, is building an elevator to space. As insane as that sounds. So it's very possible that during that time period, technology was at a point to where we could reach up into the heavens. We were building the Tower of Babel to reach into the heavens when God struck it down. Now it also says in that Bible story that all of the earth spoke the same language. Everybody spoke the same language. So when God took down the Tower of Babel, he also scattered the people all over the earth and confused the languages so that everybody had a different language, so that we could no longer communicate properly, to slow us down. Now, if you take that Bible story and you begin to think about that, and you realize this is at a time way back in the beginning. So this would be before ancient Egypt. This would be before the Greeks, the Romans, all those great civilizations from the ancient times. This is before that. This is at a point when science says that we were all just nomadic and wandering around gathering food. Hadn't even really learned how to farm yet. This is the time period we're talking about. So take what we know and take the story from the Bible and set them side by side. You're telling me that in a time period before the Egyptians, before the Greeks, before all of that, that mankind not only had the ability, but the unity and the desire to build a structure that could reach up into the sky. This is a time before large civilizations, according to history. This is a time when we were supposed to be nomadic and just wandering around gathering food and hunting. If that's the case, why were they building a tall structure up into the sky? So let's move out of the realm of the Bible, because some of you might not believe that that story is true. Let's move into actual history. When people think about the Egyptians, they think about superstitious people that worshiped the sun god and did mummies because they believed that form of an afterlife. But at the same time, these people had unbelievable technology. You don't look at them that way. When you think of ancient Egypt, you think of savage kind of people who are not civilized people, or not modern man. They don't have the technology we have. But what if I was to tell you, with our technology today, we cannot recreate what they did back then, the way they did it. We cannot cut stone with such precision that is unheard of. We can't do that with laser technology. We can't do that with any technology we have now. But history would lead you to believe that those people did it with hammers and chisels. How's that possible? How is it possible to cut a 50-ton square of limestone with a hammer and chisel and leave no chisel marks? Cut it precisely so that it fits together perfectly. How's that possible? How's it possible to move that 50-ton piece of stone hundreds of miles from where it was quarried to the build site and then take it all the way up in a pyramid hundreds of feet up? How's that possible? We can't do that with our cranes we have today. Some of those blocks we can't lift. How the hell did they do it if they didn't have advanced technology? Now, there's a lot of theories on how they did it, but we don't actually know. So you're telling me that these people were not technologically advanced. They were not civilized people. But at the same time, they could do things that we can't do. If you look at the pyramids, the way they line up, match different constellations and different movements in space with precision, man, that we can't even imagine today. Some of these ancient structures have rooms in them with holes in the ceiling to where a certain star will shine through that hole during a certain time of year, like the winter solstice or the equinox or whatever. It'll reach a certain point and that star will shine down directly through that hole perfectly. And it was intended to be that way. Now, how in the hell did those people have any idea where that star was going to be at any particular time of the year, or be able to track the movements over the decades to be able to understand where that thing's going to go in relation to our orbit and all those kind of things? How did they do that? My point here is these people were a lot more advanced than not only we give them credit for, but also a lot more advanced than we can even understand. We still don't know how they did some of the things they did. It still baffles the mind. What we know about these civilizations comes from stuff that we've dug up and found. So we'll find a fragment of a piece of stone that has some hieroglyphs on it, or has some kind of ancient writing on it or something. And we will interpret that and try to make an educated guess about what it means and about what it says about their culture, their technology, their society. We'll dig up a long dead and forgotten city that's dozens of feet underground from thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And we'll find some pottery, shards of pottery, assorted things like that. And from those little fragments of their civilization, we will try to construct what their city looked like, what the people were like, what their customs were like, what their technology was like, what their laws were like, everything about the place. Have you ever watched on some of these things on the History Channel and they're sitting there talking about some civilization that they didn't even know existed before they did this one archaeological dig, and they found these pieces of pottery or whatever there? And then all of a sudden they're telling you all about these people and about their customs and about, their histories and all this stuff. Did you ever stop and think, how the hell do you know that? You didn't even know these people existed before you found this place. How the hell do you know all that? All you found there were a couple tools and a couple pottery shards and the basic layout of the city. what remains of it. You have absolutely no idea what these people were like or what they were capable of. But yet you're guessing because you found a couple things about all these other things. So my point here is that we have no idea about a lot of this. A lot of this is guesswork. And that's just the truth. Even the places where we have written records, such as ancient Egypt, the only thing we actually know is what they left behind, what they wrote down. How many things weren't written down in a way that was going to last, that we could find them? Say our civilization collapses and goes away, and 5,000 years from now, somebody's digging down in the earth and finds the remains of one of our cities. Now, these people, let's say there's some catastrophe that destroys most of the life on Earth, and everybody starts over again. They're not going to start off with the technology they had before. If all hell breaks loose and it's just you left, and some people like you, you don't know how to build a plane or a car or any of those things. It won't take very long before you're running around with a sharp stick again trying to stab something so you can eat. Because the ammo will run out. Can you make gunpowder? Do you know how? Can you produce the brass shells? Do you know how? Do you know how to make brass? And then to mold it into the proper shape and make the gunpowder to go in it, melt the lead, and assemble it all together. Do you know how to do that? Most people don't. So it's not going to take long before you no longer have anything other than spears and bows and arrows and stuff like that. And then you're going to be out there hunting, trying to make a living, growing some food, because you'll know how to grow some crops. Somebody will. There's still a lot of people that do gardening and stuff, so somebody out there will know how to do it. And that'll be your life, like in the 1800s. You'll be hunting for your food, fishing, and growing a little garden to support yourself. And that kind of life will go on for quite a while until somebody is born who is very, very intelligent. And then that person will begin to question and figure things out. They'll figure out this little thing. And then another generation or two later, somebody else will be born that will take what they learned there and say, well, if that's that, then that means this is this, and maybe this thing is right. So then they'll slowly begin to put pieces together and develop technology again. Now, will that technology resemble the technology we have today? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Who knows where that's going to develop and how it's going to go? Their entire technology might be based on something completely different than ours. It all depends on what they discover and what they learn. But let's say 5,000 years from now, they're digging and they find a car or a plane. And let's say those things no longer exist. And they haven't existed for 1,000 years or more. They might not even know what the hell that is. If you looked at a plane or a car and you had no idea what it was, and you just had to guess at what they used it for, who knows if you'd be right? Who knows if some of these things that we find when we're doing these digs and we say, oh, well, we think that this is what they use this for. Well, how the hell do we know that? We don't. We're guessing. So the question is, back to the original article we were doing. Do you believe that the majority of alien species out there are like us? Do you believe that they have a propensity for violence and chaos and will end up destroying themselves, just like we do? That's really the question. The idea would be if these people have developed their technology to a point where they could travel in space and come here, then that means that probably they got past all that crap. That used to be the thinking on it. Could a civilization of beings get to that point and still be violent as hell? Or does that take almost a global effort, which would imply peace and harmony among people or aliens, whatever? Because there's no way that you're going to figure out and develop the technology and the spacecraft and all that stuff needed to travel across the galaxy if you're busy trying to kill each other all the time. So that's my question to you. Do you believe that the majority of alien civilizations have destroyed themselves? Or do you believe that they're probably more peaceful than that? And also, another point that I would make before I throw over to Old Boy is, if the majority of aliens are gone and destroyed themselves, why the hell are we having all these alien sightings all the time? I mean, if they're saying that there are no aliens out there because they're all killed themselves off, well, who the hell's coming here in flying saucers then? Why are there UFOs flying around that the Navy is capturing video of and releasing it to the public? Why are there rednecks being abducted and butt diddled up in their spaceships if all the aliens are gone? So you can see why this article kind of perplexed me a little bit. Well, I was like, wait a minute. How can they say that if we're having alien sightings all over the damn place? The two things don't make sense together. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. So I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and see what he has to say about the article and this whole idea. So Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
Thank you, brother. I really enjoyed it. I believe it's a possibility that other civilizations destroyed themselves. That probably happened. That's probably not a possibility. It's probably true. Now, the 36 different alien species, that's weird how he just said 36. How would they know that number? Instead of like saying, like you said, several or 2 or 3, they said 36. So that means they know something we don't in the first place. And aliens existed; they still do. It isn't. They didn't destroy themselves. They just want another thing to throw people off because they're starting to come out with the Navy stuff saying the aliens existed and exist, and now they want to try to say they existed. Now they don't. They killed themselves off, but it didn't. Why have we? Like I said, they keep seeing them all the time. They didn't. Maybe that's a certain species have done it, and this isn't the only. And that's only in this Milky Way. There's 36. There's 10 trillion different Milky Ways and spaces. So there's probably millions and millions and millions of different species we just don't know of. They just killed themselves off. Maybe Mars used to be a planet, and look at it. It looks like it used to be something, and it's destroyed now. It's desolate, like the moon. Maybe the moon was a planet, and that's all it's left, guys. Do you ever think about that? Maybe we know about it. That's why that's why we keep looking for somewhere else, because we know what we're going to do. We're going to destroy ourselves. And it's going to be over time. It isn't going to happen tomorrow. It's just over time, we're just going to destroy ourselves. And I agree with James. We've done this numerous times. But something came and showed us how to do this stuff. And I think it's them. They've showed us how to live, throughout, or somebody has from a different dimension and showed us how to live. And this is how we've learned certain things also. And like James says, it was we had a stick, And all of a sudden, we went from a stick to buildings. Well, we had help, and that's my opinion. We've had help a lot of times in our lifetime, but he is right. There is stuff that we cannot match today that we did thousands of years ago with the rock cutting and the diamond cutting. They said it's almost impossible, even with the technology we have, to do that. Now, the guy was baffled, and he was like one of the best rock cutters in the world. There's no way to get it perfectly lined the way they're doing it. They used something, or they knew something that we didn't, and you could see traces of it. How they built the pyramids. There's arguments on to this day how they did that. How they got Stonehenge, all these pyramids over them, how they built them and how they built these cities in rock. And then they have these giant figures all over the place in every different religion and every different civilization. They have the same pictures of giants and flying things and stuff. Come on, dude. It's not. It's starting to realize the Mayans knew it. They knew what was going on, and we have lost. That's what I think. We've just lost what we are, and I think we're gonna just, like he was saying, we're gonna be our own destruction. We're probably gonna destroy ourselves. Not everyone. The human race will live on. They'll find a way to get out of here before the world ends. There'll be a small group of people who get away and go somewhere else. And they'll probably just do everything over again and destroy that place too. I just think people destroy themselves, and it's not just us. I think it's just an in general thing. You see something weaker, you can take over. If they don't do what they want, we'll just destroy them. And that's what I think it is, and that's what happens in this world. We see people weaker than us, and we destroy them. Or something we don't understand, we destroy them instead of just dealing with it. If they don't do what we want, we take them out. And that's what happens. And the more and more greed and money and everything, the more and more you get like that. And I believe that there was civilizations and they destroyed themselves over this pretty much the same issue: money, greed, and power and other things. But I think that's what we're going to do. And I think we're headed, and history repeats itself when we see, or they show people what not to do, and people still do it, and 10 times worse. We see that there could have been other civilizations, and we destroy ourselves anyway. I just think we're doomed, just like all these other races. And then all these other races are showing us. I think they show us how to build stuff, and I think maybe they enjoy watching what they see. Think about it. It's like a fish in a bucket. You have these fishermen that throw these little fish in a bucket, and they're gonna you're gonna catch them, or they're gonna destroy themselves. And that's what I'm thinking. It's another theory. Are we just a chess game to see how far we'll kill each other? These aliens get us to do this. I know it's getting off subject. Still talking about aliens, guys, and I'm glad we're talking because I love alien subjects. But that's what it is. It's just a game, and our government knows it. We all know it. Well, there's nothing they really can do about it. Maybe we're just sacrifices. That when they come up and get, like he was talking about, the funny thing is talking about the hillbillies and redneck, or whoever they abduct, maybe that's what they do. And they're like a sacrifice. You never know, guys. I'm just showing ideas. I don't want people to think I think that. I'm just showing an opinion or a new theory. Maybe we're just animals to them, and they like seeing us destroy each other like cattle to the wolves. If you guys know what that means, most of you guys do. You guys listen to the show. You're smart already. But what I'm saying is, I'm doing old war theories now, guys. Is how do you know that they don't know what we're going to do because we've done it before, and they just like seeing us do it over and over again? There's people who are cruel like that. We don't know all these aliens are great people. They probably want to see. There's some that probably want to destroy us. There's some that probably loves us, and there's some that just doesn't care we're there or not. And there's some that just want us to use us as slaves, and they probably did before. And there's truth to that. There's proof. What if we are just a big game that they just like keep in, and we're just getting too much to the point where that's why they keep coming here, because eventually they're just going to take everything back and teach us a lesson. Or we're going to do it ourselves. We're going to destroy everything we made, and it's going to take thousands of years to rebuild it again. And I think we're headed to there. Maybe not right now. And like James was saying, the environment's, we're not going to destroy the world. Yes, we'll hurt ourselves, we'll kill animals, and it is that global warming is real. It's not. There's difference of opinions. There's some people who say it's not going to do nothing, it's going to do a little bit. Yes, it changes the environment. Don't get me wrong, it's going to affect the world. But there's other people who say this so they can get money out of this. So remember that, guys. Don't always believe everything you hear. I believe that there's stuff changing the world. I believe in it. But I just there's other things going on we just don't know. And they're never going to tell us. Living in a world that and this is how it's always been, they always lie to us. Instead of just telling us the truth, instead they think we don't and we can't handle it. So they don't tell us anything. And I kind of believe that 90% of people can't handle it anyway. They can't handle anything. Like James is saying, I think we're just getting, some people are just, we're dumbing ourselves out. Like, it's not, if you can't build anything anymore and and I know it's easier and stuff like that, but, you get smarter technical wise, but physical wise, you don't. You get weaker. So, that's just my opinion on that. But with these other planets that were here, I think that's true. I think there was civilizations and they destroyed themselves. I think again, Mars. I think the moon. I think there's other places we just can't go that far yet. We don't know how far everything goes. We know there's more solar systems than just ours, so there's probably thousands and millions of aliens out there, creatures, all kinds of stuff that we don't even know of. Maybe that's who the monsters are we see on our thing, that people seen these things before, and they're not just monsters. You're just a different breed of being. They're lizard people. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're just they look like lizards, but they're really not. We don't know what they really are. They're aliens. So whatever they are, they're different than we are. Maybe they're the same thing as us. They're just ancestors that they breeded with our to make soup. There's some that's actually half alien, like they think. You never know, dude. But this is a good point. I like this story. I'm glad I found it. This is why I wanted to talk about it, because it's very interesting. And it could have happened. It probably did happen. They probably did destroy themselves. So we're probably going to follow the same suit. But other than that, James, there you go, brother, because we don't have that much time. So there you go, brother.
Old boy brought up a very interesting idea. And I don't even know if he realizes he brought it up or not, because he kind of said it in passing, but it triggered my mind immediately. What if a lot of these monsters and creatures that people report seeing, like Mothman, like black-eyed children, shadow people, even some of the cryptids like Chupacabra and Bigfoot and Dogman, all this stuff. What if some or all of those things aren't supernatural monsters at all? What if they are aliens from another planet? When we think of aliens, we think of little gray aliens or little green men or whatever, right? We don't think about the fact that who knows what species developed on that planet. Remember, the dinosaurs ruled our Earth for a long time. So how do we know what form of life developed on that planet and reached the point to where it could leave that planet and come somewhere else? Star Wars should be your guide here. Think about Star Wars, all the different kinds of aliens and creatures. There's so many different weird things. Chewbacca. It's a lot like a Bigfoot, ain't it? What if some of these cryptids and some of these monsters that we do shows about and we talk about in the paranormal field, what if they're actually aliens that have come to Earth to visit? And we see them. And people report, oh my God, it's a crazy thing I saw. And then you go out and look for it and then you can't find it. Well, you can't find it because it went away. It got back in its spaceship and flew away. Not saying that's true, but damn, that's an interesting idea. And I think there might be some truth to that, at least on some scale. I'm not saying every single creature, but Could there be one or two that are alien species that we're looking at as monsters, but actually aren't monsters? They're just aliens. And you see them every once in a while because they're down here checking us out. Could be. Very interesting. So with that being said, I'm going to throw it back over to Old Boy to get his final sum up and shout outs, and then we'll wrap up.
Well, again, guys, I'm sorry I'm accidentally genius, but sometimes I just think of things and I blurt it out, and then sometimes I'll just talk about it and I'll just, walk away from it. And I just was an idea came out of my head, and it happens, guys. It's, it happens with a lot of things, and it's always worked for me. I don't know. But I hope you guys enjoyed this show. I really did. It was different, something really interesting. I know it's New Year's. Technically, where James is at, it's going to be New Year's Eve in a minute because it's almost 9 here. So technically, it is New Year's Eve. So I want to say this is the last show of the year. Happy New Year, guys, because this show is going to be on Sunday after the show, but we recorded it technically at the end of the start of New Year's Eve for him, but it's still not New Year's Eve here because it's only 9. But I want to thank everybody from ParaX Radio. Thanks for listening to us every week on Sunday nights. Check us out on James Hershey's YouTube page. Go and subscribe. We noticed that YouTube has been monetizing a lot of our shows, so we're not getting a lot of people seeing it. We see people on the show does on ParaX, but the YouTube, a lot of people are not seeing it till later on, because if certain things they just monetize it, guys. We got to watch what we say, so they don't like it. It's hard for us to get it out there. So just to let you guys know, we're going to try to figure out a way, like other avenues with, like, we're talking about Spotify and other places soon. So that will probably be down the road, just to let you guys know. But if you guys want any merchandise, he'll tell you where to go. Masks, covered masks, shirts, blankets, all kinds of cool stuff. I hope everybody has a good new year. I hope it's better than this year. I'm hoping. So I hope everybody has a good night. Misfits, sugar ladies, monster hunters, and demon lovers. I love you. Blessed be. And be careful out there, because no one else is going to care about you but yourself. Have a good night.
Yeah, what Old Boy is talking about is YouTube does weird things. It shadow bans to where it doesn't recommend your videos anymore if you talk about things that they don't want you to talk about. It doesn't send out notifications to your subscribers when you've posted a new video. And it will even go so far, if you piss them off, as to start to unsubscribe people from your channel. I've had multiple people that have sent me messages asking me why they keep getting unsubscribed to the channel. They have to keep going back and resubscribing again. And I want to assure everybody, if that's happening to you, it's not us doing it. It's YouTube doing it. So if you don't see a video from the channel pop up for more than a couple days, you might want to go to the channel and make sure you're still subscribed and all that, because YouTube might have kicked you out. I put up a video pretty much every day. Every once in a while I have a day I don't post something, but almost every day there's either a paranormal news video or a gameplay video or a staring episode or something that goes up on the channel every day. So if you're not seeing those come up in your subscriptions or your recommended or whatever, then definitely go to the channel, make sure you're still subscribed, and click the little bell thing to make sure you get notifications. That way you don't miss anything. We talk about some kind of subjects on this show sometimes that the powers that be don't really appreciate us talking about. And so that's what happens to you when that happens. That's actually the reason I started doing the gameplay videos in the first place. I enjoy playing video games. I've done it my whole life. I really, really love it. But I decided to start making videos doing it and putting those on the channel as well, because it's all a numbers game. If you get flagged by YouTube for content that you shouldn't have said, and they shadow ban you and they start screwing over your channel, you have so many videos in a row that have to be right and good without saying anything you're not supposed to say in order for them to ease up on you again. So the video game stuff that I started putting on there was a way to get a lot of videos up that weren't dealing with subject matter we weren't supposed to be talking about. And that way it kind of tricks the algorithm into thinking that the content is okay. You see what I'm saying? I mean, we're not putting up anything that's dishonest or anything that is vulgar or sexually explicit or anything like that. But it's just some of the subject matter we talk about, they don't want you talking about. So I mean, when you get like into a lot of the conspiracy stuff and stuff like that, they don't want you talking about that kind of stuff. So they will definitely start messing everything up if you do. So that's how I kind of figured out a way to counter that and kind of reverse it. So anyway, the YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. If you are not already subscribed, please go and subscribe and enjoy it. Like I said, new videos every day. So there's always something very cool for you to check out. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. That's TESPRING.com/store with an S on the end /staring into the abyss. That's where all of the merch is. With that being said, guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate all your support, and we will catch you on the next one. Until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.